News 24 Live, welcome to this week's Super Rugby prediction show. We are previewing round 8. I'm joined by Sport 24 editor Garen Lamley and our chief rugby writer Rob Howing. Gents, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Nick.
Hello, Nick.
We're going to kick off with what I think is the game of the weekend, the Hurricanes versus the Stormers, Rob. Top of the table, the Hurricanes are yet to drop a game, and yeah, there's some big names back for the Stormers.
Yeah, the Stormers are sort of trying to load up on the sort of big guns. They've made it no bones about the fact that they want to take on the Hurricanes up front. We know that traditionally in the past, the pack has always been a little bit of an Achilles heel for the Hurricanes, who've always had a bit of a free-running, fluid style, but their pack often hasn't sort of had quite the mettle. That's changing a bit. I mean, collectively, the Hurricanes are a lot steelier now. Their defence has tightened up quite a lot. Their pack is a lot more respectable than it used to be. A couple of All Blacks in there. And no guarantees from a Stormers point of view. Just because someone like Eben Etzebeth has come back into the mix doesn't necessarily mean that he's quite ready yet to give it a full tonk. I still think he's a little bit short of a gallop. I think he looked a little bit rusty when he came off the bench last week. So it's not as though he's going to come in and suddenly be the answer to all the Stormers' prayers. I mean, they'll certainly be hoping that is the case because we know how influential he can be. But getting Dwayne Vermeulen back is obviously a big development for the Stormers. His sort of leadership by example, I think that was missed last week. So look, the Stormers have got a big puncher's chance, especially because history favours them quite strongly actually against the Hurricanes. But the realist in me still thinks that this unbeaten Hurricane side, they're 6 out of 6. So you've got to say, why shouldn't they go 7 from 7? Especially as the Stormers have lost two good quality New Zealand sides already in the last couple of weeks. So I'm afraid I'm leaning a little bit towards a home win here.
Okay. Garen, sticking with the Stormers pack, I mean, Skulk and Siya Kolisi, I thought were probably two of the standout players against the run of play last weekend. But then you look at the Hurricane side and that backline just stands out. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It does. I mean, starting with the Hurricanes backline, they've welcomed back Julian Sevier, Beauden Barrett, two of the best players in the world in their positions. You've got Maiononu, Conrad Smith, Corey Jane, TJ Perinara. There isn't a bad player in that backline, and I think that's going to be
150 games for Maiononu.
Absolutely, milestone for him there. So they're certainly going to be tough to beat. They've scored plenty of tries. They do tend to score lots of tries every season. It's just, as Rob said, that's been their pack that sort of let them down in the past. But that backline is without doubt on paper the best in the tournament. They're going to score tries against the Stormers, even though the Stormers team do defend really, really well. We're going to have clashes. I can see Julian Sevier bearing down on Cheslin Colby there with just between him and the try line, and it could get a little bit ugly for the Stormers if they're not careful, and they're certainly not on their A game. In the pack, as you said, Kolisi and Skalkberger were fantastic last week. We knew Dwayne Vermeulen was going to come back. He's come back at the expense of Nizam Kar, who hasn't been, I think, at his best this season. I think
has he essentially been dropped because he's sort of off the boil?
Yeah, look, I think he has been dropped. I think he knew he was going to be dropped. I think he's not helped by the fact that he has played some flank, played on the flank at times this season. He's not really a flank. He's been an eighth man, I think, his whole career. Certainly picked as a Springbok at number 8 as well. So he's not helped there, but I think we always knew that it was going to be the case. I'm pretty sure at some point there's going to be a team come calling for Nizam Kar, even though he's a Cape Town boy. I think Dwayne Vermeulen, SA Player of the Year, probably the best number 8 in the world. He deserves the starting berth. Nizam Kar, young player, if he wants to further his career at number 8, I don't think it's going to be at the Stormers, but we'll have to see how that pans out. But certainly the Stormers lose trio with Kolisi, Berger and Vermeulen, one of the best in the tournament. Got Etzebeth back, as Rob said. I haven't really been that impressed by Etzebeth. There's a lot of hype and talk about him. All he's done is get injured and get yellow cards. So, he certainly owes the Stormers faithful a big game or two. We've scrummed incredibly well. I expect us to have domination up front, but it hasn't really translated into points, tries, victories. So you look at the Hurricanes pack. They've got Victor Vita, Brad Shields comes highly recommended. They've got Ben Franks in the front row. They can certainly hold their own, and they've defended really well. So even though I think we'll have ascendancy up front, they'll have ascendancy in the back line. It should be a fantastic game. I agree with Rob. The Hurricanes have to lose at some point. I've said many times that no team will go through this tournament unbeaten. They've won 6 from 6. They're going to lose at some point. I just don't think it's going to be this weekend. I think they're going to be too strong with these players coming back for the Stormers. I'm going for them by as many as 7 or 8 points.
Rob, next up, Rebels Reds. A lot of talk about this Carmichael kid coming back after his drug dealing or whatever. Is he, I mean, apart from that, why is there so much hype about this guy? I mean, I know that he's been sort of touted as a World Cup bolter.
I know. It's just, I suppose, there's always that interest in that sort of cross-code situation, isn't there? When a player has done well in one of the sort of rival football codes, you're always sort of you're really interested to see how he'll go, and you sort of, there's always shades of sort of Sonny Bill Williams. These guys sort of weave in and out of different sort of sports. I mean, Sonny Bill's obviously an exception because he's got pugilistic skills as well. This Carmichael fellow's had his
even though he
sort
fights fat retired boxers. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. This one. Is a little bit of a sort of a grim basement battle, really. Rebels, Reds. I can tell you this much: neither team is going to be in the playoffs hunt come the final series section of the competition. So it's a little bit of a kind of a picking up scraps kind of game. This one was a bit of a tough one to call. It's in Melbourne, so I suppose Rebels, on those grounds you could go for them, but I've got a little hunch that the Reds might be a little bit angry after botching it against the Lions, and might just, because they still got some good names in that side on paper. I've got a funny feeling that they might actually nick a little away win.
Darren, at the first game on Saturday, you've got the Chiefs, who are also sort of flying high, and then the bottom-dwelling Blues.
Yeah, the Blues certainly not flying the New Zealand flag. The rest of their conference doing incredibly well. The Blues haven't won a game. They were pretty competitive, I thought, against a very good Waratahs team last weekend. They actually took the lead in the second half, much to my shock, but then ended up going down. So I expect New Zealand derbies, with any derby, the players know each other really well. They're both playing or vying for All Black spots. So I expect the Blues to be better. They certainly can't be worse than they've been in a lot of their games this season. But that Chiefs team is really, really impressive. With Sonny Bill, Aaron Cruden, Liam Messam, they've got some really, really good players. It seems they can make 3 or 4 changes every week, and it doesn't seem to weaken the team in any way. So they've rested a lot of players. They've got players coming back. It's very difficult to know what their best 15 is. But with the Chiefs at home, I expect them to be the favourites, and they certainly are. I expect them to win. I wouldn't be surprised if they picked up another 5 points and sort of kept their momentum in the table. If the Highlanders have beaten the Stormers as we think, they'll still be playing catch up to the Hurricanes. They'll be playing catch up. So I'm going to go again with the home side. I think it could blow out a little bit. The score could be fairly high. So I'm going to give it to the Chiefs at home by 10 points.